All right, so we are going to go ahead and get started. So just a quick introduction. My name is Ashley Bodkins, and I'm with the University of Maryland Extension Office here in Garrett County, where I'm a senior agent and I work with home horticulture in the Master Gardener program. I'm an advisor for the Deep Creek Watershed Foundation, so that is why I'm helping to facilitate these recordings and these brunch and learns. So with that, this is just a slide again to reiterate that these brunch and learns are sponsored by the Deep Creek Watershed Foundation and just simply facilitated by University of Maryland Extension. We just wanted to do a quick introduction for those of you that may not be familiar with the Deep Creek Watershed Foundation. The mission is to preserve and protect the Deep Creek Watershed. And if you have any questions, you can visit the website, deepcreekwatershedfoundation.org for more information. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Carolyn Sheaffer. She's joining me here live from the Extension office, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about herself and about the program.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Carolyn Sheaffer. I serve on the board of the Deep Creek Watershed Foundation, and I mostly participated projects, and this year one of my projects along with DNR representatives and the POA board representative, we're working on a project called the 10 and 10. The 10 and 10, can you advance that to the next slide? I'll just run through this. The 10 and 10 is a reforestation program that focuses on providing trees and supplies to lakefront property owners in order to achieve at least 10% vegetative buffer within the next 10 years, with a special emphasis on properties with less than 10% existing vegetation. Now, this is simply a voluntary program offered by the DNR. And our purpose is to build up the shorelines with natural plants native to the area, which will help stabilize the lake banks. And we call it a riparian buffer, which is an economic and a friendly way to slow the process of erosion into the lake. Next. The definition of a riparian border is a strip of land along a body of water that contains native plants, which protects the shoreline. RIPA means bank or shore. Just for some trivia there. Next photo. Okay. This is a little example of what would be what it would look like, although this body of water here is a stream, but you'll have some larger plants, rather trees on the uplands. Then below that are smaller trees, understory trees, shrubs, grasses, sedges to kind of build up the river bank or the lake bank for the purpose of keeping the banks from eroding. Next. Purposes of a buffer are stabilizing the banks of the lakes. They filter nutrients such as farm pesticides, animal runoff, other pollution. It conserves soil, provides shelter and food for aquatic animals, habitat diversity, and scenic beauty. Next. So the Deep Creek Watershed has created, or is it what should I say? We're working right now on a demo garden along the dock to the right of the launch, Deep Creek Lake State Park. It is not completed yet, but we're installing plants, we started last year. We've got some trees and some bushes going. We've divided it into 3 different areas to kind of show you what can be done with these plants. We have an area that has shade, more of like a shade garden with pine trees. We'll have ferns and other plants that are shade loving. Then we have an area where we have a lot of just grasses and sedges and flowers that can be used, and also bushes, low bushes such as blueberries, in different designs, so that people, if you want to know what can be planted, eventually we'll have all those plants labeled, and the culture of the plants, meaning like, what does it like wet soil, does it like shade, we'll have those all marked, and then a walking path through there. So we are, as I say, currently working on the demo garden. It will take a little while till plants take off, and we also are doing, just for your information, we're doing a planting on Monday the 20th at 9 a.m. If anybody is wanting to come to help plant some of the grasses and flowers that we have, we ask you to bring a shovel and maybe a trowel, and meet over there at the right of the dock at Deep Creek Lake State Park. Next. And this is just a quick picture of the group that we had last year when we began the project. Next. So the term native, we're looking at planting native species because they seem to do best in this area. It's what has plants that have co-evolved with other species in the system. This adaptation is referred to as local provenance or ecotype. The interesting thing about this is these plants who've been evolved over time in this area have genetically adapted to drought, rain, temperatures, the soil consistency, such as acidic soil or a basic type soil. Also, they adapt. Sometimes you can see the adaptation by the flowers or the colors that they that come to bloom. So that is why we like to use native plants. They do best. They are able to, for the most part, ward off diseases and things that plants from outside the area may not be able to do. Also, a lot of non-native plants tend to be invasive. They tend to take over the natural plants in the area. They can choke them out, and so we're really looking for things that grow naturally here and can adapt well. Next. So I just added this by no means is an extensive list, but these are some of the trees and plantings that we can offer or that can be used that are natural to the area. This is a list of some large growth trees. They grow, 50 to 100 plus feet in the air. Next, we have smaller trees, understories. Here's a list of some that are also native to the area. They're shorter than the large trees. They can be used alone or along with the larger trees. Some of these offer pretty flowers such as the dogwood and the redbud, the crabapple and the serviceberry. And then next we have shrubs. Of course, they would be shorter than the understory. And these also offer berries. They offer color. They offer flowers. And these also, some of these, such as the 9-bark, have a very long taproot system, which also helps hold the soil in place. And then Lastly, we have ground covers and flowers that can be added, such as ferns and flowers for color, lots of grasses that also help stabilize the soil and also create a filter for pollutants that come down into the water. And except for the palm tree on the third row down, a lot of these trees are these are examples of some of the bigger trees that we would use to hold up the shoreline. So with me today, I have Eric Null, the lake manager, and Julia Vache, who's also with DNR, Natural Resource Planner. And they're going to give you a little information on how to get involved with this. So I'm going to turn it over to them.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right, well, great. Thank you so much. So I'm really glad that you guys could all be here. In order to get involved, you really just have to call our office. And from there, you know, if you get in touch with me, either via email, and we can put that in the, can we put that in the chat for my email? So we'll try and put that in the chat for you guys, and otherwise, you know, feel free to call us. And essentially we would come out, do a property inspection and kind of assess your property for its unique characteristics and for its, you know, individual properties as far as existing vegetation or, you know, what we think understory, overstory, what kind of things may be missing from your property and things, you know, the specific features that you may benefit most from. And, you know, I do think that erosion is a great thing for us to be utilizing this project for, but the filtration and just maintaining the rooted and vegetated buffer is extremely important for keeping everybody's property, you know, the same or hopefully improved for the future generations of lake users and lake goers. So I think that this is a great program. And yes, we can absolutely, I saw the note, we can absolutely give you a list of the recommended. We have in our office, a native species list. And again, just because there are so many options, it's not even a fully comprehensive list, but it does have a lot of great options of a lot of the things that we will have access to through this program. We're working with the Tremendous program, which is, who operates that? Is that forestry?
Yeah, it's a state-run program that provides low-cost mature trees that have to be planted on state land, and conveniently, the buffer strip is state land.
State land, perfect, which is also why we would require them to be native, and why, again, we would encourage native species in general, even for your private property. I think that it's a great practice. Native plants or non-native plants aren't really replacing a niche in the ecosystem. They're just taking up a spot that could have been something more beneficial. So I think that it's great everywhere at all times, but specifically on the buffer strip. So do you have anything else to add?
No, I think you covered it pretty well.
Okay, very cool.
Do you want to give them your number? Your
Yeah,
phone
of
number?
course. So my direct line is 301-387-3545.
35.
Yep. Thank you. Yeah, and we will identify any plants. You know, we will come out to your property and we can definitely, with existing vegetation, we typically don't mandate a removal if it is non-native and has existed, you know, for many years. But that kind of depends. But yes, we can definitely identify probably more often than not, almost any plant that you're going to have on the buffer strip, native or non-native, we should be able to get that done. Oh, deer resistant. Sorry, I read resident. I'm so sorry, folks. Resident plants is what I thought you were talking about. Deer resistant. So yes, we can provide some recommendations. Unfortunately, with native plants, and that is one of the things that we are providing with the program, is tree cages. So that would be the deer protection, because again, unfortunately, with native plants, since they are right in that you know, filling the niche that they are supposed to, part of that would be, you know, deer diet. So in order to prevent that, we would want a physical barrier. Otherwise, there are some modifications that can be made in nursery programs that will make them quote unquote more deer resistant. However, if you have a buffer strip property, I'm sure you know more than most that deer will eat almost anything. So it's a nice thought to have something that may be more deer resistant, but you'd be surprised they may eat it anyway. You know what I mean?
Another thing that is present, basically with another one.
If it was a non-native plant, we would be, we could definitely set something up and work something out with that. If it is a native species, we wouldn't be, offering an exchange for another plant. Part of this program, it cannot be utilized with, any mitigation effort or replanting requirements from our office. So if we have in the past issued a mitigation plan or, required replantings for the assessment of a tree or for the removal of a tree, then the trees provided in this program would not be eligible to be utilized for that. Does that make sense? Did I say that right? Planting is 9 a.m. on Monday the 20th. And it just depends moving forward. I'm sure that in the upcoming years, we will have many more volunteer opportunities for everybody.
If
20.
there's nothing
Sorry.
else that you need to say, I'm gonna recommend that Bob Sutton take the floor now and just I think he has a few things to say about this program. So Bob, if you would like to go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the POA has supported this project since the inception. I think a couple of years ago it was presented to us, and we offered our help, and it's a great idea. Anything we can do to reduce erosion and soil deposition into the lake is a positive step for the future, which goes right along with our mission statement. So it's a great idea. I encourage everybody to take part in it. Particularly the southern part of the lake is pretty denuded of shoreline plants and stuff. So we would encourage everybody there to take advantage of this. So good luck.
Thank you. Okay, we have some more questions here.
Yeah, I saw that. So Andrew, I'd be more than happy to talk to you, about a property or a specific property details, over email or something. You can shoot me a message. But specifically, like wetlands are typically identified by like 3 factors, and it's the presence of hydrophilic vegetation. So it would be the presence of, plants that like water or are notorious water loving plants. And then it would be the soil conditions and the, time that it is inundated and how long that the ground is wet for, correct? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah. So, well, I'll answer the bird sanctuary question. Again, with property specifics, every property is a little bit unique, so I'd be more than happy to give, specific recommendations, over the phone or through email. But I think that a lot of these plants can be beneficial for birds, and in the same way, a lot of, depending on what kind of birds you have, a lot of it is specific where, some of them woodpeckers would prefer some standing dead wood. So that would mean leaving a dead tree for a little bit longer than you would necessarily prefer or typically prefer. it can be a variety of things like that. If they're, you know, fruit preferring birds, then there are different recommendations that we can provide for that. Absolutely.
Also, coneflowers provide seeds for birds, and that is a native plant, so that would also be an option that you would have. Low bush blueberries are nice. You'll be able to see your shoreline from your house. They're low enough, but they also provide food for birds and other critters.
Yep. And a big part of this also is that we want to give you guys as property owners the freedom to make these decisions yourself. We want to encourage you to do it, and we want to provide whatever we can to make it happen, but we're not going to tell you where you need to plant them, you know, other than on the buffer strip. So you guys, it would give you the freedom ultimately to decide, you know, you could put taller trees on the edge and, you know, shrubs on the shoreline or shrubs down the walkway, or there's, again, pretty much completely up to you guys what you would prefer, and we're more than happy to work with you guys in order to do that. We'd love to see some more native species, and I think that this is a great way to do it. Last year, for the pilot of the project, we were able to secure Sky Valley as a location, and we had Silver Tree, their new boat marina, which is in the McHenry Cove, so it's between the fire department, or right between Bill's and
Sun Place and
Yes.
Hills.
Yep. And so they have trees down there that are doing great. They were able to put them kind of along their property line in a way that still made their property, their commercial property, usable to them. And I think that that's a great example of our flexibility. And then we were able, for this upcoming season, we have, again, further plantings with the boat ramp. We have a handful of, you know, type A permit holders or private property individuals. And then we also secured the ski harbor, which is a pretty large parcel, again, in McHenry Cove. But they're a community that's willing to work with us and get started on planting some trees.
Eric, there's a question,
Yes.
Is it okay to tie off a sailing buoy anchor to a tree on a buffer strip to overwinter so the anchor can be located again in the spring?
It's not okay to keep a rope on a tree just on it, because it'll girdle the tree, it'll cut the tree's flow off. If there's something or a reason, even with individuals that utilize ropes to stabilize their docks, what we ask is that you block the rope, meaning you put wooden blocks on the inside of the rope, between the rope and the tree, which will allow the tree to grow and it won't hurt the tree. If you're tying an anchor off to a tree in winter time, again, blocked ropes are permitted, but keep in mind that, well, maybe not this past winter, but on a normal winter, when the lake freezes over, the lake does become an ORV trail for snowmobiles. So please try not to make an obstruction that a snowmobile could hit.
Yeah, I think that if you're removing the mooring buoy in the fall, that it would have to, you know, the weight and chain and, you know, any portions of that would be removed all at the same time. And you could certainly leave them down on the buffer strip until they are ready to be utilized next season, but.
Trimming trees.
So,
Okay. The philosophy behind trimming trees to maintain health depends on the species of tree. A lot of our native species, it doesn't help them as much to trim them. And when but if you have dead limbs in the tree, that's what helps the tree out, is it stops trying to put energy into a dead limb if you remove it. With pine trees, our native ones are typically self-pruning, meaning as they grow upwards, they'll lose their branches down low to support more energy in the top where they're getting more sunlight. Again, removal of dead limbs is not a bad thing for a tree, it's a good thing. We ask that if there is, you know, if you do have dead limbs, you have to call us and we'll come out and we'll mark the tree so that you can trim that dead matter out.
Mhm.
We typically We typically don't permit just trimming of live stems on trees, especially natives, because some species, they don't fare well when you do that. So it's a speed that, more of our natives, they like to just grow wild.
And I think that, there is a lot of people on private property will maintain rhododendrons or something like that. So that's maybe like a more common one that people would request to maintain. But with it being a native species, again, it does, it grows. Our management is manage the buffer strip as naturally as possible. So we understand that everybody recreates, and we want everybody to be able to do that safely and comfortably. But aesthetic maintenance of, live stems would probably be less likely to be permitted. I, again, wouldn't even say no, but it would, again, be a case-by-case situation. So we'd be more than happy to come out to a specific property and take a look and see what we can offer, any given property owner.
Any other questions?
Again, if any other questions come up at any point, you feel free to contact me, call me, or email, either one.
Okay, well, we thank y'all for joining us
Thank you.
today.
Thank you, guys.
We will definitely send out a link to the recording as well as the contact information for DNR and the Lake Management Office. And then if y'all have any questions, you can just reach out afterwards. So we'll stay on a few minutes. I'm going to stop the recording. And then we'll stay on a few minutes. If you have any additional questions, we can answer them quick. Otherwise, have a nice day.